Welcome back to the page, guys. Another year, more content. This time a Drytron deck profile and a combo to boot. Two separate parts.
Welcome back. This is the first profile of the year, guys. Hope you guys have had a wonderful holiday season, a wonderful new year, and got to really enjoy time with your families. And now it's back to some Yu-Gi-Oh! Shout out to the Shizu Mat. Let's get into it. This is the Amorphactor list. Y'all know I play some Drytron, and I'm always trying to continue to play the deck. It's really hard right now, and this by no means is anything that's all the way solved. It's way too much going on in the game. There's so much stuff coming out that may bump Drytron into even more rogue status, but there will be a video very soon where we feature the new Link 2 that is absolutely insane. But then getting back to this, we start off with 3 Alpha. Alpha obviously searches the rituals, not breaking any news right there. Obviously Zeta searches the ritual spell. Triple Gamma to grab them back from the graveyard, obviously another name. And then Delta obviously as well. This is the one where again I always have to mention this is the ratio that I'm playing, but you can always make these prosperities and then cut these down. It's very easy, and that doesn't really change, and that gets really redundant to keep repeating. But basically this is the Drytron lineup. I play as many names as possible just because Shifter exists, Crow exists, Called by the Grave exists. So much stuff exists that this card is just a good card to have right now. And you know, with Di-Fi now being a thing at 3 and Macro as well, Kashtira is gonna be really strong as well. You just wanna have this card. Trust me on that. Where the deck differs a little bit is obviously in getting into the ritual package. We don't differ here. I still play Draco Nits. Shout out to the collectors. Rare big beater, gotta have them, gotta drop them on people. Having a 4K beater coming out of the deck, which many other decks just simply don't have most of the time, is just a wonderful thing to have. And you know, you just see it. You see how clean it is. The cover boy of this deck is Amorphactor Pain. You guys have seen many profiles. This is just the newest one, and then obviously I wanted to kind of talk about him a little bit. Obviously when he's ritual summon, he activates his effects. Just in case you've never actually interacted with this card, he activates on summon, and your opponent skips their next main phase if that effect resolves. He negates the effects of all face-up, fusion, synchro, and exceeds monsters while they're on the field, which makes this a reason why I am using it, because simply there's 3 decks, you know, whether it be Despia, whether it be Tier, whatever fusion deck you want to talk about, as well as so many other synchro decks, whether it be Sword Soul, whether it be new school stuff. Kashtira is an Exceed deck. This card is really strong, and what you'll find out is that a lot of these cards have lower than 2950. Now Kashtira definitely has power crept this card a little bit, and they'll be able to get rid of this card. But just in case, for right now, I feel like it's a solid choice. If you run into Branded, they have a hard time with this card still. Now they can punch over it, but most of the time they can't. If you went first, you'll get to pretty much skip their turn, because obviously if you don't remember, and we'll show a combo at the very end, just the generic way that these two can sit on the field next to each other pretty much protects everything anyways. Meaning, guys, IP Masquerena protects Amorphactor Pain, and Amorphactor Pain protects this. If you cannot get into your battle phase to attack over this, then you will have to deal with IP Masquerena, and that's pretty much the reason and the source of the entire deck and why it can be possible to still play. Clearly there's a Go Second versions that I can also try to profile soon as well, and there's so much there's so many ideas to mess around with that it gets kind of silly. But it's always fun. Cyber Angel Ben 10 at 3 and Natasha. You definitely can play Ida 10. However, I'm working on something where I'm working on a Go Second build, and Ida 10 is much better when you go second. And it just is an additional like change of heart. So, you know, I'm not playing Bell in this build, so you're kind of vulnerable to getting stopped in some kind of way from being able to Tasha them like that, because they can just bestial her away. However, I'm playing Orange Light, which you'll see in a second, which it's just so much to manipulate with, guys. And there's obviously some other cards I can mention that I'm not necessarily playing, but definitely cards you got to mention. Not Obelisk the Tormentor, that would just be too silly. And I definitely would recommend a third Talents. But getting back to the cards, this is the package that I'm playing for this. Pretty simple. I don't think you want to play Preparation of Rites like that. you just can't afford to like not open cards right now. You have to like get to the point as fast as possible, and like prep isn't going to help like that. Maybe want to find space for one somewhere. I'm playing more fairies again, and we're starting off the screen and we're bringing it back into the screen with orange light, double diviner and orange light, and Lancia as well. And then obviously you just saw all of those cyber angels. So going second, I would definitely think about playing the orange light if I was playing Idaten as well, just because that just begets it gets to be so many fairies, right? But I'm playing 2 just because your normal summon isn't Vanity's Ruler in this deck, so you can play 2 and you want more copies for orange light to be more live and orange light to have more food. And then obviously with decks still losing and very hardly, you know, with decks like Cashier, with decks like Fluanderies, Lancia is just Lancia still. So I definitely would recommend maining 1, maybe even 2, and I definitely would recommend main 1, side 1. And then this is where my deck differs. I draw. There's a lot of rogue, so what happens is you overcorrect for a tier, and then like other decks smack you, and then you over prepare for the other decks, and then tier smacks you. So like I wanted a card that like can do like something against everything, which is really weird. And it also pseudo is a way to Fafnir, which you guys may have forgotten, and you clearly can do that with a card like DD Crow. You know, you guys all any level 1 hand trap is always like that. You know, shout out to the ulti. But again, guys, Dark World is the main reason. There's a lot of people playing in my locals because it's a cheap deck and it's really good. So being able to draw and then just random rogue that just can search. I like to just shut it down because Drytron can still beat them over the head. That hasn't changed at all. Forbidden Droplet, you know, Drytron being a rogue deck is just insane, and that's the key point I wanted to make there. Forbidden Droplet is still too good to not play. Dumping your entire hand to be able to deal with an entire board. Usually this card is how you beat tier. If you don't draw it, you're going to have a little bit of a hard time. You have to draw like talents or the lava golem that you'll be siding, or etc. It just depends. Or you could just open really well, but most of the time you just hope you open Droplet, which is why you may want to switch the 2 deltas out for the prosperities, just to grab them more, just to grab these more. Drytron, Nova, still playing 3 of them. 2 tactics, not 3. Starts to get redundant just because sometimes people have kind of shifted back to board breakers, and that makes this card go down, so that's why I'm playing 2. Again, for redundancy, I'm only playing 2. 1 Fafnir to search the Nova or the Ritual Spell. The Ritual Spell, which is just so clean. The Harpy's Feather Duster to deal with people who play just so much back row. Shout out to my locals, because that's my locals every week when I do play. Shout out to the locals. Shout out to Scan Cafe. Foolish Burial and then Called by the Grave. This card is bad against Bestials, but it's so good against just generically everything else and just screwing over tier and just other hand traps that you got to play. And then Foolish is a terrible top deck, but it's still a name. So, you know, you kind of always want a name as much as possible. Foolish Burial is sometimes an easy cut. That's just my opinion, though. Lava Golems, pretty solid. Doesn't change. Being able to tribute over your opponent and just dealing with their board instantly, and also being able to Tasha it back and kill them with it, which happens a lot, is still very good. The Amorphactor Pain stuff doesn't fight well through hand traps and doesn't fight well through a lot of boards unless they're playing like a Synchro Exceed board, and you know, you just have to hope, whereas just dropping Lava Golem means you don't have to hope. You also have 3 Evenleads to handle like the other back row people and all of their foolishness. Again, guys, y'all know me. I play a card that makes this very good. Anytime that you have a deck that can easily end on a Wing Beast, I would play this card. If you can just easily slip a Wing Beast into your board, I would slip in a Trap Trick even. If you really believe in it, like in an event, I'd probably play even more copies of it, because Featherstorm is Featherstorm. And a Trap Trick might actually help you clear some of these out of your deck anyways. Dark Rulers, Twin Twisters, the second Lancia, which these can be Cyclones, but I don't like the conflict with that, you know, because like I like Lancia, and then you set something and I'm like, Twin Twister, you lost. And my personal fun tech right now, which could be in a tech video, but why wait? It's Green Light. Green Light is really good right now. I have taken away so many field spells in tier. So much stuff when the Churia tries to set up, so much stuff where people think they have me with a talents, and then they get caught by it. There's a lot that I could cover there, but I wanted to mention it because, well, Shizu players and tier players, y'all could be playing it too. Guys, the extra deck, as always, is kind of the same. Shout out to Umbreon, you know, some favorite Pokemon. Him and Trico. You got double Fafnir. You obviously have the Assembled Nightingale as your Wing Beast target, your downers. The Zeus and the Beatrice. I always feel like the downer is definitely worth it. You got your Diviner targets. You clearly still need Link Karibo to be able to link off. I would think about playing Anima. It's not necessarily needed. Mirage Lights is really, really important to this build, just because if you, most of the time, if you have more than 2 names, you're gonna have in on a crazy board. 4 names, you're gonna have IP Masquerena. Really 3 names is gonna get you to IP Masquerena and Amorphactor Pain. If you have more than 3 names, you're going to end on IP Masquerena with this and Amorphactor Pain and like Lancia, and then they're just not going to play. Abramax can also be a card that you can slip in here because IP Masquerena is just so strong in this deck, again, because Amorphactor Pain and her protect each other. 2 peas in a pod. You obviously got Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn to be able to handle stuff that you just can't pop, so you have to shuffle it back. Really, Kashtira is the main reason, the main culprit. And then Appaloosa, the Bow Goddess, and Underworld. Now let's get into it.